Hey there, Enrique here from Maven Analytics, and in this video we'll build an interactive dashboard in Google Sheets for sales managers to track their team's quarterly performance. It's a perfect project for beginners that are just getting started. Now we'll start by preparing the sales pipeline data for analysis by conducting some basic QA and profiling. We'll then move on to exploring the data with pivot tables to analyze quarterly trends, and finally we'll be building a dashboard for sales agents to track the quarterly performance. Now, this project is part of our Maven Analytics guided project library, where you can build, apply, and sharpen your skills by solving real-world business problems. Now, you can work through these totally independently, you can view hints, or you can watch our expert-led solution videos to see how data professionals would solve these projects step by step. Now, with that, let's dive into the assignment details for creating our CRM sales dashboard in Google Sheets. Let's talk about the situation. You work as a sales manager for Maven Tech, a company that specializes in selling computer hardware to large businesses. They've just started using a new CRM system to track their sales opportunities, but they have no visibility of the data outside of that platform. So to combat this, you've set out to build an interactive dashboard that enables sales managers like yourself to track their team's quarterly performance. Now, for the objectives for this guided project, you'll prepare the data for analysis, you'll explore the data with pivot tables, and then you'll build a dynamic dashboard. Now, if you'd like to follow along with me, you can either create a free account at mavenanalytics.io to access our data projects, or you can head to our free data playground, search for CRM sales opportunities, and click download to access the same dataset that I'll be using for this project. Now, for the rest of the video, what I'm going to do is introduce each of the 3 core objectives for the project, along with their associated tasks, and then I'll follow it up with my solution walkthrough. Now, I'd strongly encourage you to pause the video and work through the objectives and the tasks on your own first, since that really is the best way to learn and apply your skills. If you get stuck though, feel free to watch my solution videos to see how I would tackle each objective. So, good luck. Let's dive into the first objective, which is to prepare the data for analysis. Now we've got 4 tasks that we're going to be walking through. I highly encourage you to try these out yourself first, and if you find yourself struggling, then you can come back and reference the solution video to follow along with me. So for the first task, it's going to be very simple. We're just going to open the sales pipeline CSV file. From there, we're going to take a moment to familiarize ourselves with the data. You're going to answer questions like how many opportunities have been won, over what period of time, what products were sold with those opportunities, and we're going to see if there are any missing values in any of the fields. For the third task, we're going to open the sales team CSV file in a new tab. And then finally, we're going to bring in the manager and regional office fields for each sales agent into the sales pipeline table by using lookup functions. So those are the tasks for this objective. Let's go ahead and jump in. So here in Chrome, you'll see that I've got a blank Google Drive folder, and the first task is to just open the sales pipeline CSV file. So I'm going to open up the CRM sales opportunities folder that I downloaded, and you'll see that we've got the sales pipeline CSV here. So I'm going to click on that, drag it into my folder. And from within Drive, all I need to do is right-click, then go to Open With, and I'm just going to press on Google Sheets. And that's going to launch our CSV file in Google Sheets and create a new sheet for us. We could rename that something like CRM Sales Dashboard. And that is objective number 1. Now, for objective number 2, we want to take a moment to familiarize ourselves with the data. And there are a number of ways that we can do that. Right off the bat, you'll see that we've got a number of columns here. If I select them, we've got 8 columns. We've got the opportunity ID, which looks like a unique identifier for each opportunity. We've got sales agents and products. We've got accounts. We've got a deal stage for each opportunity. So it looks like we've got won, engaging, lost. And we've got an engaged date, a close date, and a close value. Now, if we wanted to take a closer look at each of these in Excel, for example, a common thing to do is to enable the filters like this, and then look at the drop down for each one. So for deal stage, you'll see that we've got engaging, lost. We've also got prospecting and won. We could do the same for the accounts, etc., etc. But in Google Sheets, there is actually a better way to do that. So I'm going to go back to the first column, and then I'm going to go to data, and then take a look at the column stats. And that is going to open up this column stats pane here. And if we scroll down, you'll see that we have a series of profiling metrics. So we have 8,803 total rows, we have 2 empty cells, and we have 8,801 unique values. So it does look like the opportunity ID is a unique field or a unique key. And if we go down, you'll see that the 2 empty cells that this is referring to is just these 2 here. So if we scroll up, we can move over to the next columns. So I'm going to scroll up here as well. And let's move on to the next column, which is the sales agent. And change this to a count. And we can see the number of opportunities by sales agent. It looks like Darcel has the most so far with 747. And it has the most overall. Now you'll also notice that we have sales agent here, which is the column header. If we want to exclude that from the column stats, I'm just going to ignore the first row. You'll see that it's no longer highlighted in green here. And we no longer have sales agent here. So here again, we can take a look. Darcel has the most. It looks like maybe either Garrett with 123 or Wilburn, 110, has the least opportunities. If we go down, we can actually confirm that here we've got the top 5, and we can change it to least, and we've got the bottom 5 here. Again, only 2 empty cells, and it looks like we have 30 unique values, which means we have 30 different sales agents. Let's go on to the next column. For our product, it looks like we sell a similar amount of all of these products, mostly GTX Basic, not so much GTX Plus Pro, but we sell very few of the GTK 500 product. If we go back down, again, we've got most, least, and you'll see that we have 7 unique products, no empty cells, just the 2 all the way at the bottom. Now let's move over to the next column. We can see the accounts here. Again, our least frequent customer is Ice Electrics. We have 51 opportunities with them. And the most is Hotechi with 200. And we have 85 total accounts that we've made business with. But if we look at the empty cells, it looks like we do have about 1,425 or 27 empty cells here. So let's take a closer look to see what's going on there. We can already see one here. I'm going to enable the filters once again. And let's filter account to only the blanks. Press OK. And it looks like the deal stage for these is either in engaging or prospecting. So it makes sense that we maybe don't have enough information from those leads or those prospective customers to have them as an account in our CRM system. You'll also notice that for engaging deals or engaging opportunities, we don't have a close date or a close value. If we scroll down, let's see if we can find any prospecting ones. You'll see that for those, we don't have any engaging date either. All of that is blank. So we're learning a little bit more about our data structure here. I'm going to unfilter, select all, OK. Now let's move on over to our deal stages. We now know how many opportunities have been won, which is 4,238. We've lost around 2,400. We're still engaging with about 1,500, and we're prospecting 15 new ones. Again, only 2 empty cells, which are the ones in the bottom, so no concerns there. Let's move on to our engage date. And if we go down, you'll see that the minimum value is October 20th, 2016. So that's the earliest date in our data set. And the most recent date is December 27th, 2017. So that's the date range that we're working with as far as the engage dates. Let's move over to the close dates. And it looks like for those, they go from March 1st, 2017 to December 31st, 2017. So we're looking at deals closed in the last 3 quarters of 2017. We've got some empty cells here since we know that not all of these have a close date, only the ones that are either won or lost. And if we go over to our close value, you'll see that most deals are between $0 and $4,300. We do have some between $4,300 and $8,600, but it looks like we have some other smaller values here. And if we go over here, it looks like the max deal that we've closed has been for 30 grand. And we've made around $10 million in deals in that time period. So now we're a lot more familiar with our data. We can close our column stats, remove these filters, and let's move on to task number 3, which is to open the sales team CSV file in a new tab here. Now to do that, it's actually quite simple. You just need to go to File, Import, head on over to Upload, and let's just browse and select the CSV file that we want to open. In this case, it's going to be the sales team's CSV. Let's open that. And then we just want to make sure that the import location is a new sheet in this same worksheet. So I'm going to open that up. And now we have our sales pipeline and our sales team's files all within this Google Sheets document. Now for task number 4, what we want to do is bring in the manager and the regional office for each sales agent in the sales pipeline table. So I'm going to add 2 more columns, insert one left, press F4 to repeat that action. Go over here, let's just copy the column headers, paste them here, and to bring in the corresponding manager and regional office for each sales agent, so for Moses Phrase, we want to return Dustin Brinkman and Central. What we can do is use a lookup function. And in this case, I'm going to use XLOOKUP. The search key is going to be the sales agent. The lookup range is going to be the sales agents here. So I'm going to look up Moses Phrase in these sales agents here. And I want to return the manager that corresponds to Moses Phrase. So that's going to be my result range. Close that, press enter, and you'll see that we do get Dustin Brinkman. And now before I apply this over and down, I just want to double check my cell references. I'm going to press F2. We want this to move down but not over, so I'm going to press F4 until I've only fixed the column. We have fixed B, but a relative to here. Now my sales teams over here are always going to live in this range. So I'm going to fix those, F4. And the sales managers, I do want to move over to the right so that we can get the regional office. So what I'm going to do for these is fix the rows, but leave the columns relative. Press enter, and I'm just going to apply it right. Get Dustin Brinkman Central. That's correct. Let's move it down 1 for Darcel here. We get Melvin Markson, Darcel, Melvin Markson Central. That's correct. So let's just apply all of these down, double clicking on the corner there. And we have the manager and the regional office for the rest of our sales agents. So that's objective number 1. Let's move on to the next one. Time for objective number 2, which is to explore the data with pivot tables. Once again, we're going to be walking through 4 tasks. So number 1, we'll want to insert a pivot table on a new tab to show the number of opportunities won by quarter. We'll then add another pivot table on that same sheet to break down the percentage of won and lost opportunities by quarter. Next, we'll create a final pivot table that shows the opportunities won by quarter for each sales agent, and then we'll sort the sales agents in descending order by the number of opportunities won. And then to cap it all off, we're going to restructure those first 2 pivot tables so that they have the quarters as pivot table columns instead of rows, and then we're going to sort them so that the most recent quarter always comes first. So let's go ahead and work through these. I'm back here in my Google Sheets with my sales pipelines and my sales team, and task 1 is going to be to insert a pivot table on a new tab to show the opportunities won by quarter. So with any cell here selected, let's go to Insert, Pivot Table. Let's insert it on a new sheet. And let's think about what we need to do here. We need the count of opportunities. So I'm going to drag the opportunity ID into my values. You'll see that it defaults to account. We have 8,800 total opportunities, but we only want to show the opportunities one. So I'm going to move the deal stage into my filters. And I'm going to uncheck everything except for one. Press OK, and we have 4,238 won opportunities or closed deals. And we want to show that by quarter. Now we only have two date fields here. We have the engaged date and the close date. The most relevant date here is the close date, since that's when the sale was actually accomplished. So let's drag that into our rows. And you'll see that we get the number of opportunities by date, but we want it by quarter. So if we want to aggregate that or roll that up into quarters, all we need to do is right click, go to create a pivot date group, and let's just select year quarter. And it looks like Q1 2017, we closed 531, which is a lot fewer than the rest of these, but that makes sense because remember, we only have data for March for this quarter. Then we had very similar numbers for Q2 and Q3, and then a slight drop off for Q4, where we only closed 1,196 deals. So that's task number one. Now for task number two, we want to add another pivot table to the sheet to break down the percentage of won and lost opportunities by quarter. So right now we're looking at the totals. Now let's look at the percentage of won opportunities. So to create a new one, since it's going to be very similar to this one, I'm actually just going to select Control-C to copy. I'm going to paste it down here. And to break down the percentage of won and lost, I actually need to filter to won and lost opportunities. So this is the total opportunities that were finalized, which means either won or lost. And to break that down, let's just add to the columns the deal stage as well. So now we have quarter, number of lost opportunities, number of won opportunities, and the number of total opportunities, which is great. But we want the percentage of won versus lost. So to do that, we actually need to show these as a percent of row. So I'm going to change that. Now you'll see that in Q1, we won 82% of our deals. Then in Q2, that dropped off to 61, stayed at 61 in Q3, and then actually dropped to 60% in Q4. Now these 100% are a little bit redundant, so we can hide them by unchecking show totals here. And there we go. That is task number two. Now for task number three, we need to create a final pivot table that shows the opportunities won by quarter, just like this, but broken down by each sales agent. So I'm going to select this, copy, paste it down here, and we want to break this down by sales agent. So we could, just like we did here, add these sales agents to the columns. But that's going to give us a very wide and very short table. So what I'm actually going to do is just swap these around. I'm going to move the sales agent to the rows, move the quarters to the columns. And now we have the number of sales agents and the number of opportunities that they won by quarter. Now we also want to sort these sales agents in descending order by the number of opportunities won. And I can do that over here. We have our sales agent. We're going to do descending order, but not alphabetically. We want to sort it by the count of opportunities. And we can select specific quarters here. We could do the most recent quarter, for example. So now these are sorted by this column, but eventually this data set is going to grow and this is no longer going to be the most recent. So I'm actually just going to sort it by the grand total. So we always have the top selling agent at the top, no matter the quarter. So that is task number three. Now for task number four, we want to restructure these first two pivot tables so that they have the quarters as pivot table columns, just like this one. And we're going to sort all of these so the most recent quarter, in this case Q4 2017, always comes first. So let's do that. I'm going to move over to this one. And again, let's move this to the columns. And now let's just sort it in descending order. So now we have Q4, then Q3, then Q2, then Q1. That's perfect. Let's do the same for this one. Let's move the deal stage to the rows, the quarters to the columns. And we want to be careful with this one because remember, we're showing these as percent of row, but now we actually want to show them as percent of column. So in Q1 2017, what percent was lost and what percent was won. So let's change this to percent of column, and we're back to 82%, 61, 61, and 60. Again, let's sort these in descending order. So the most recent quarter always comes first, and we can just look at this to get our most recent data. Let's sort it the same way here, descending order. So we have Q4, 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 broken down by just the total number of opportunities won, the percentage of won opportunities, and the top sales agent by opportunities closed. Now we can get rid of some of the blank rows here. And the good thing about having the data structured this way is as this data set grows, it's just going to add more columns for each quarter, and these pivot tables are never going to overlap. And that is the end of objective 2. Time for our final objective, which is to build a dynamic dashboard. Now we have 5 tasks this time around. Number 1, we're going to insert a scorecard chart visual to show the opportunities won for the most recent quarter compared to the previous one, using the data from our first pivot table. Next, we're going to use the data from our second pivot table and use a pie chart to show the percentage of opportunities won and lost in the most recent quarter. Then we're going to use the third pivot table and a bar chart to visualize the opportunities won by sales agent for the most recent quarter. For task number 4, we're then going to add slicers for the regional office and the manager fields to make this report dynamic. And then we'll finish things off by arranging these visuals into a dashboard and adding a relevant title. So I hope you're ready. This is the most exciting objective in this guided project. Let's get to it. So we want to start by inserting a scorecard chart visual. And if you've never done this before, it can be a little confusing. So I'm actually going to select a blank cell and just insert a blank chart in my document here. Let me move this over here. The chart type is the scorecard. At the bottom here, you'll see the scorecard chart, which is really just like a KPI card. I'm going to add that, and you'll see that it needs 2 values here. It needs a key value, which is really the metric that you're going to be focusing on, and then a baseline value to compare that with. So here our key value is the number of opportunities won in the most recent quarter, which is always going to live here since we're sorting these. So I'm going to select the range here, and it's going to be these 2. You want to include the column header. Press OK. We get our key value of 1196, which is our Q4 2017 value. And then for the baseline, let's select this range here, which is the previous quarter. Press OK. And you'll see that it adds the comparison. So in Q4, we actually had 61 fewer deals than we did in Q3. Now we can do some customization on this, so maybe remove the border color. For the titles, let's say something like opportunities won. And then for the baseline value, we can either show the absolute change, which is this. We can show a percentage change. In this case, I like the absolute change. And then we can show a text after this comparison. So in this case, it's going to be versus previous. So opportunities won versus previous, which we'll then know means previous quarter, since this is going to be a quarterly performance dashboard. And that's really all we need. I'm going to close that. Let's make this a little bit smaller. And there we go. If we wanted to add, say, something like a 1,000 separator here, all we need to do is add that to our source data. I'm just going to select this row. And let's make this number with a 1,000 separator. And then just remove the decimal places. And there we go. So that is task number 1. We have a scorecard chart. Now for task number 2, we want to use a pie chart to show the percentage of opportunities won and lost in the most recent quarter. So it's always going to be this region right here since this is always going to be sorted. And to do that, I'm just going to select this data, go to insert a chart. Let's change this to a pie chart. And there we go. Now I actually want to draw the focus to the 1% here, so I want that to be the first slice. And to change the order of the slices, you just need to change the order of the source data. So I'm going to edit this pivot table, and I want to change it so that 1 comes before lost, so the order will be descending instead. And now you'll see that we have this one slice come first and then lost. So we can come back and edit this chart. And let's customize this. Let's remove the chart border and the pie chart. If we wanted to make it a donut chart instead, we could add a donut hole. I'm going to leave it as a pie chart. And for the pie slices, I like the color for the 1 slice, but I want to just keep the focus there. So I'm going to change over to lost here. I'm going to change it to a muted out gray so that we're really just looking at the 1 slice here. Now for the titles, the chart title can be something like win percentage. And the legend right now is automatic, which is this labeled one here. But I'm actually going to change it to none. We already have win percentage here, and we're focusing on this slice, so we know this represents the wins. So we can remove that, and let's just add the data labels back in. And to do that, I can come back here to pie chart. We can add the value or the percentage. In this case, they're one and the same since we have the percentages in our source data, but we could actually remove that. If we change that, right now we're showing us percent of column. If we go back to the default here, you'll see that now we can look at the actual absolute values, and the pie chart itself will actually calculate the percentages, which is very cool. Again, we can add the formatting for the numbers here, maybe make it number, no decimal places to add that 1000 separator. Let's go back to edit this chart. We were in the pie slices, in the pie chart here, sorry. And I'm actually just going to show the percentage. Let's make it bold. Make it a little bit bigger here. And I'm going to make it white. And if I just want to keep this data label here, I can actually remove this one or just make it the same color as its background. And now once again, we're keeping the focus on this win percentage, which is 60.3%. Now let's just make this a little bit smaller. Close this out. And we've got our task number 2. Now for task number 3, we want to use a bar chart to visualize the opportunities won by the sales agents for the most recent quarter. So it's these right here. So with them selected, let's just go to insert a chart. You'll see that we get a column chart by default. We can just change that to a bar chart. Move this over here. And again, let's just customize this. Let's remove the chart border. Let's change the chart title to opportunities won by sales agent. We can actually get rid of these axes labels here since they're not adding a lot of context. And there we go. If we close this, now let's make this a little bit taller so we can see all of the names here. And you'll see that Rosie here is cut out because her last name is so long. We can just select this area when we edit. And let's just bring this in until we can see the full names. Let's close this out. And that is objective number 3. Now for objective number 4, we want to add slicers for the regional office and the managers field to be able to filter these charts. Now to do that, all I need to do is select any cell from these pivot tables and then go to data, add a slicer. And as soon as I do that, you'll see that we get this drop down of all the columns in the source data for these pivot tables. So the first one, we want the regional office, and we want to be able to apply this to the pivot tables. And we're going to add another one for the manager. Again, apply it to the pivot tables, and as I close this, check it out. If I select let's say the West Regional Office, you'll see that everything is filtered here. And it looks like we're showing the grand total in this bar chart. Let me just remove that from the pivot table. And there we go. So these are the sales agents for the West region. These are the opportunities won, the win rate, and we can filter by one of the 2 managers for that region. Let's just go with summer. And everything updates dynamically. Isn't that neat? Select all of these. Select all of these. And we're right back to where we started. So for task number 4, all we need to do is finish things off by arranging these visuals into a dashboard and then just adding a title. So it looks like we already have some sort of a structure here. I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. Let's move this so it's aligned with this one. Can make this a little bit less wide and maybe make it the same height. Let's align this with these over here. Can move all of these down a bit to add our filters up top. Let's do regional office first. And then the manager over here. And finally, let's add a title. And to do that, it can be a little tricky to add text boxes here in Google Sheets. All you need to do is go to Insert, and it's actually the drawing here. I'm going to open up this window. You can just add a text box in here. And the title can be something like quarterly sales performance, something that lets us know that we're looking at a quarterly view. Just going to Control B to make this bold and just make the text box fit the text here. Press Save and Close, and that is going to add the text box to our dashboard here. Let's just make that bigger so it fits here. There we go. I'm just going to move these down a bit. And we have our quarterly sales dashboard, which is fully dynamic. Let's maybe look at Dustin Brinkman. Press OK. 213 opportunities won this quarter, which is 7 more than the previous one. A 63.2% win rate. And these are the opportunities won by the sales agent. So Anna, which was the top agent, had 57. Cecily, which was the bottom agent, had 33 in Q4. And that's it. That's the end of this guided project. Hopefully it gives you some idea of all the possibilities within Google Sheets for creating dynamic reports, all with some simple formulas, some pivot tables, and some charts, and just some strategic formatting along the way. And that's it for our CRM sales dashboard in Google Sheets. Congrats on making it all the way through, and I hope that you learned a thing or two along the way. Now, if you enjoyed this one, keep in mind that you can access all of our guided projects at mavenanalytics.io. Projects range from basic to advanced, and feature tools like Excel, Google Sheets, SQL, Power BI, Python, and more. You can also build personalized learning plans, assess your skills, earn credentials, and browse our entire library of self-paced analytics and data science courses. Now, I hope you had fun with this project, and I'll see you in the next one.